Joining us now to discuss Blinken's visit to China, we're joined by Sourabh Gupta. He's a Senior Asia-Pacific International Relations Policy Specialist at the Institute for China-America Studies. Great to have you on the show. Now, Xi and Blinken indicated that both sides had made progress on specific issues. Which issues, or what issues do you think might these be?
I think the issues that they were focusing on in terms of specific action, I think, are people-to-people issues, things like visas, things like having more flights coming across so that there is more engagement and interaction of people from the two countries. Mr. Blinken also had, going into the meeting, there were particular wants that he was looking forward to. One was with regard to, I think there were some American citizens who've been detained in China, and which the Americans think has been done illegally. So I think there was probably a conversation on that, and I'm almost certain that there was an important conversation with regard to, the fentanyl issue and possible chemical precursors which might be coming from China to Mexico and are used in the production of these drugs. I don't know if there's forward movement on that. I presume there is forward movement on that, but I don't know for sure. But it is these small nitty-gritty issues where they're trying to make important, small, incremental steps forward. And those were, I think, the smaller issues that they talked about.
Now, the meeting indicated that Mr. Xi was also sending a message to his own people, that his government was reaching out to Washington in some way. What do you think that message was?
The message was that US-China relations obviously are not good, but it serves, at the end of the day, it doesn't serve the purpose of either side. And while it is fun to be nationalistic and maybe get a little jingoistic and feel proud about oneself, this doesn't help either US or China or the world, and that both countries have an important investment in their relationship, which transcends just the bilateral partnership, and that it is important that both US and China, which means the Chinese people too, should be invested in the success of this relationship and certainly not its deterioration. So he is signaling even to his own people that let's not get too far ahead of this, whatever might be said or not said in the media and in various places. Let's try to rebuild this relationship, and we must invest in its success and not in its failure. And that's an important thing, I think, that needs to be communicated.
Our reporter Nathan King just said that Americans mostly view this trip as a win. Do you think it was a win?
I think it was a win, because there is a very widespread feeling that the relationship is not in a good place. There is obviously also a very widespread feeling in Washington, the Beltway and beyond, that US and China are fated to compete. Yes, that's there. But they also know that there needs to be, as Mr. Biden said, certain guardrails to protect the relationship even as they compete. Hopefully not in terms of that there won't be a rivalry or conflict, but at least in terms of them competing. And the fact that that Mr. Blinken has had more than 10 hours of meetings with such senior people in China, that the meetings have gone well, that they have been so detailed and thorough, and that he had an audience with the president himself, I think these are all signs that there is stabilization setting in and that there is potential if one can build from this point on.
Now, there's been a fair bit of pressure, or growing pressure at least, from other nations for both governments to work more closely together. What does it mean for international relations as a whole for the US and China to work more in tandem?
I think it's obviously very, very important, and it becomes that much more important for the international system because the US-China relationship that Chairman Mao, Kissinger, and Nixon bequeathed, that old normal of whatever you call it, strategic coexistence, strategic cooperation, that has kind of broken down. We are in a new normal. But a new normal does not axiomatically mean that it is fated for inexorable rivalry and conflict. There is an intermediate equilibrium that the two countries can strike up, and I think that's where they are headed towards. And frankly, the stabilization of international relations at this time when there's so much churn in the international order is going to be doubly welcomed by everybody, and particularly by folks in the Asia Pacific who do not want to see rivalry set in and who see a long horizon of prosperity if prosperity is given a chance. These are developing countries which know that they can still grow for the next 25, 50 years, and they want that stable framework in which they can realize their developmental ambitions. So I think it will be welcomed by all.
All right, Sourabh Gupta, thank you very much for your insight.